Hello everyone, my name is Rose Thiga. I've always been curious about what it would take for us to shape the Africa that we want. And I decided to start a conversation series with entrepreneurs and people who are doing amazing things in their careers to that goal. So today I am joined by JP Kayobotsi. JP is the co-founder and CEO of Brioche, a chain of bakery and coffee shops started as a small self-funded endeavor in 2013. Prior to Brioche, JP worked as an advisor to the Rwandan president, and he also worked as an investment officer at the Africa Development Bank and as a management consultant at Deloitte. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So JP, thank you again for agreeing to be part of the conversation. I'm really curious about your childhood. Yes, because oftentimes I think as we get older, we forget to look back on the formative experiences that we had as children, and particularly the values that are instilled in us by our parents. So, what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? What values did your parents instill in you that kind of impact how you see the world and how you move through the world today?
That's a tough question. So when I know where I grew up in Belgium. So I was born from a Belgian mother and a Rwandan father. They met in Congo.
Okay.
So though my mother was Belgian, she was also very much influenced by Africa somehow. In terms of values, I think somehow hard work, I guess, and discipline certainly. Well, on both sides,
right.
But in different ways. Honesty, I believe, was also honesty and integrity was also important for my on my mother's side,
right.
Especially at least
right.
She was the one expressing it more.
Yes. Okay, interesting. And how do you carry those values today in your work at Brioche, for example?
I guess a bit unconsciously. I guess I'm not too much into that on a daily basis. I think, but yes, honesty and integrity is quite important for me. I usually start my relationship on the assumption that. On a trust basis,
right.
And then so basically taking the hypothesis that the relationship will be, based on trust and honesty and on what was agreed, and then oftentimes it deviates from that, but at least that's my starting point. And then yes, if it deviates, then I adjust myself, but it's my preferred starting point,
right.
and possibly also it remains in that direction, but it's not always or not often the case.
Right. If I may, it's interesting that you brought up trust, and particularly in the context of being an entrepreneur, and building a team. How have you had experiences where trust has been broken, and how have you kind of handled that element, but still building the right set of team to help you reach your objectives?
Yes, so I would say that trust has been broken on many occasions.
Yes.
I think it's part of life
And business.
And business. How I deal with it, well, it depends of the the context, the situation, and if there is an issue, I mean, like a big issue or not. Obviously, if there is too much of an issue, then we have to stop the relationship and move on. And otherwise, I think my main approach is to just focus on the objective. Mm-hmm. Yes, focus on the objective.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah. So don't get so caught up in the situation, but always focus on the objective.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Great. So what was the inspiration behind starting Brioche?
Yes, I guess there are two aspects into. There is the inspiration of starting a business, and then there is the business idea. Mm-hmm. In terms of the business idea, yes, I was born in Belgium and grew up in Belgium, and bread, pastries, and food in general is a big thing there. It's obviously Belgium is not as known as France as a country and as a culinary destination or experience, but it's actually as good, if not better. And people really enjoy life in the sense of being Epicureans, enjoying the good food, good wine, good drinks. So in Rwanda and a bit of the region, I noticed, but also other people that were even more experts in the food business than me, noticed that there was a bit of situation where businesses would afford quality that was not at the highest standard with quite high prices, so not really value for money, especially in the bread, bakery, pastry segment. And I was missing the good pastries and good bread, and such probably other people would enjoy them, especially if they become relatively affordable. So yeah, I thought, why not? And then also I realized that some people or some companies were trying to import such product from outside Africa to Africa, and I felt that was not really making sense to me. So yeah.
What fears did you have at the point of starting?
No fears.
No
fears
fears
at all. Yes, because I was a total fool. So, which I think is quite important when you start a business. Absolutely no fears, because I had no idea what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So when you don't know what you are going to face, you're like, yeah, why not? If I had known, I would have had many fears, but yes, I didn't have any. How stupid, right?
I wouldn't say so. I think, yeah, sometimes staying foolish is good, because then we wouldn't have Brioche today. So what have you had to overcome in terms of challenges to get to where you are today?
Well, many, but I think the main one I realized after a while is your own transformation you have to go through. So that's I think the main obstacle, because you have a view of things, or you have no view, or you think you have a view, but then reality is like very different, and so it creates then a lot of questioning, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, and that is initially one might think it's because of that person, or because of that company, or because customers don't understand anything of what you do, or you feel like it's you might feel like it's external factors, but it's really your own transformation that you have to go through to be then able to handle the many challenges and many different types of challenges, I would say. yes, you have to go through that. You have to become a bit of a Zen master kind of thing, I would say. At least, maybe not Zen master, but Zen master compared to where you were before, or compared to where I was before, in order to be able to stay focused on the objective and handle the many daily, sometimes hourly challenges that you face. So that's the biggest thing, I would say. Yeah.
That's deeply insightful, JP, and I want to dig deeper on that in terms of transformation. For people that may be watching, what tools have you used in terms of your own transformation journey, or what books have you read, or what podcasts do you listen to help shape or navigate your own transformation over the years?
Yes, there are many. I would say I read the books of Howard Schultz, of the former CEO and founder of Starbucks as we know it now. I read also Man's Search for Meaning, which is a book from Viktor Frankl. It's not an entrepreneurship, but it's quite interesting. I read a book called The Goal, which is also quite interesting. It combines more technical elements on how to get your business going through obstacles, but also more philosophical elements. Yes, many.
No, it's good. It's good to have specific titles. So for anyone watching from home,
Sure.
They can.
Book of Phil Knight.
Book of
Phil Knight of Nike.
Okay. Yes.
Fascinating and interesting. The Monk of Mecca, a book of someone that is trying to contribute to the coffee scene in Yemen, despite the war environment. Also quite interesting. Yes.
Fascinating.
Can give you a long list.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And you talked a little bit about becoming a Zen master, and immediately my mind went to managing stress or stressful situations. So how do you incorporate some Zen practices in your day?
Yes, I try to do some meditation exercise. I'm not as regular as I would want to be, but it's something that I was not doing before that journey, definitely. And yes, I think for me at least, and from what I read, for many other people, it's helping. Yes, that I do also more sport than before, much more. Also a bit of a different dietary habits, I guess. Yes, a bit of everything. Anything that I think can help me, I do.
That must be hard, seeing pastries floating about every day.
Yes, luckily I'm not always in the shops,
right,
because it's harder definitely when you have the perfume of the croissant being baked. It's definitely harder. But I also see or felt the benefits. The changes have given me much more energy, and that then goes into sports and work.
Right.
And so yes.
What sports?
Just running.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, running. Okay,
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Are you long distance, short distance?
I guess long distance,
Okay.
yes. Although I hated running before, so it's quite interesting. Yes.
How did you get into running?
Well, it's because of that process of looking for things that could help in terms of managing stress, and then it went into dietary habits, and the dietary habits had a quite significant effect on my energy levels, and then I had to do something with it. So I said, you know, why not try to run? And so I started running despite all odds, because I really hated running for my entire life. Yes.
Okay, so maybe we can talk a little bit about Brioche.
Sure.
So what's Brioche up to now?
Goals for 2021 is quite difficult to say with this COVID situation. I think it has been. I mean, I knew entrepreneurship was. I had learned that entrepreneurship was tough. With COVID, it brings it to just like another level, you know. So it's very difficult, I think, at least for our business, to set goals for 2021. Every time we say, okay, maybe now we can set new goals. Something new of COVID happens. So I think for 2021, our goal is to stay afloat, you know, just to survive, and see if there is something after 2021. And that would be, I think, our main goal, realistically. Yes. And just, yes.
Survive and advance.
Survive, and if we can progress, also progress, and you know, if we can grow, but yeah, just go with the flow somehow. Yes.
That's fair. Yeah, I think we're all just, you know, trying to keep moving. Okay, so what advice would you give young entrepreneurs?
I don't know. What I can say is that for me, it has been quite difficult, and it was much more challenging than I thought it would be, but also very interesting, rewarding, and despite all the daily, weekly, hourly things, I would do it again, definitely. So I really enjoy it. I feel it's very interesting, very rewarding. I'm not sure whether it's for everyone or not, but yes, very exciting. So, you know, just do it, I guess.
Just do it. That's a good summary. If you have a good idea, just do it.
Yeah, I don't know about good ideas or not. I've learned that, you know, there is no. I don't think there is anyone that can judge whether an idea is good or not. You have to try it.
So why, maybe to ask a question around why the name Brioche, and you know, why start it from scratch rather than, you know, franchise a brand from Belgium or other parts of Europe. What was the thinking behind that?
The first part of the question is the easiest. So brioche is the name of a bread, a type of bread, and type of French bread, let's say. So the business idea is to do a French bakery. Yes, because French bakery is associated with quality, and that's what we wanted to try to bring to the market, a different kind of quality. It's always important for me to try to bring something different. Although I wish that brioche would become a huge financial success, because there are a lot of uncertainties about that, you know, long-term goal. I want also the journey to be interesting, because if something happened before that end goal of financial success, at least I will have enjoyed my time. And one of the key elements for me is to try to bring something different to the market, you know. Because that's what, you know, drives me and excites me, etc. We wanted that French quality, that French bakery concept, and we want the name that sounded a bit French, but that was accessible for the English-speaking people. And I think it is. It's not necessarily easy for English-speaking people, the name brioche, but Yes, people at least try. We see that in the shop. It's quite funny. Then why not start from scratch? In my lives before brioche, I had a lot of time to think about Africa and what was going in Africa and what Africa needed. I had exposure with the NGO world or the international institution world, like the World Bank and the African Development Bank, etc. And but also with the private sector. And my belief was that private sector development was key, but also domestic private sector development, not just foreign investment, so that much of the value creation can be kept in Africa, or in Rwanda, or in Kenya. I think that's a very important part, because entrepreneurs from a certain country, they will always, I think, tend to reinvest in that country. Hopefully not only in that country, hopefully they can become regional or they can become global, like people do in the US and in Europe. But at least the base is always kind of the country, and then they have more at stake to and more interest to reinvest in the country. I think it's really, really important. And the history, even in Latin America, has shown us that it's important to have your own domestic private sector. And then I also believe in the importance of changing mindset. It's something that we have seen, and we are seeing in Rwanda, and maybe in East Africa in general. I think the mindset somehow is what can drive people in one direction or in the other, in a positive direction or in a bad direction. And to have the right mindset, it's also, I believe, important to have the right role models. So one of our dream ambition for brioche is that it can be a little bit at its modest kind of little level, a bit of a role model for some people here and there, some entrepreneurs or other people that maybe they can say, hey, if brioche managed to stay alive during the COVID, maybe I can do too during this or that crisis. If brioche managed to expand beyond the borders of Rwanda, maybe I can do too. Or if brioche expanded beyond Rwanda's border, maybe as a Kenyan business I can expand beyond Africa's border, right? So, as I said in the beginning, I try to read a lot of books from entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship journeys. Most of the books that I found so far, they are from entrepreneurs in the US, in Europe, sometimes in Australia, in Asia. Not so many from Africa that I found, and I think it's a gap. I think it can be helpful if you have, it's quite fine to look at Steve Jobs as a role model, but he's that guy in the US, etc. I think it's also, it would be nice if we would have more of those role models and more of those documented role models as well, closer to us, so that we can maybe relate more or in a different way. And so hopefully with brioche we can create a a company and a brand that for some people is relatable and that can motivate them. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to your last point, that's a big part of why I've started this conversation series, to be able to have folks like you who are relatable to the audience. You look like us, you talk like us, to be able to share their journeys and actually, play that role model role, and not to be put up on a pedestal or anything, but to, like, your ordinary people with an idea that you did not give up on, and through perseverance and persistence, you are where you are today. So I'm so glad that's also part of the thread that you're thinking of, not the duality of, yes, I want to make financial returns, and maybe one day you'll be the next Howard Schultz, but also the other thread of entrepreneurship is actually a path, if you have the grit and the perseverance. So thank you so much for sharing that. So maybe just to go back a little bit on your past and how you made the transition from Belgium back to Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
What are, maybe can you share with us like a couple of scenes or moments in your life that led up to the transition to move from Belgium back to the continent?
Yeah, I think it started when with my professional career kind of thing, almost just a bit before, I think. So most of my time I spent it in at least based in Belgium, but quite early on a big fan of traveling. But I came to Rwanda and Kenya, actually Kenya first, quite late in '98. And that's also when I met most of my family, because in Belgium we were very few, but then in Kenya we were like many, and then also in Rwanda. So that felt good, and that was interesting. Then when I was working at Deloitte Consulting, I felt it was very interesting from a technical point of view. It was very formative. It's very, those kind of companies over there are quite demanding and stringent, so it was very formative. But you feel like, at least I felt like a very small piece of a big thing, which I was. Then I think I was also a bit restless, so I was torn between Africa and my interest for Africa, and I read more, and I went back to a evening master in international relations, etc. And during the day I was doing some entrepreneurial stuff. So after a while I already knew that this kind of small piece within a big company was probably not something for me. Then the entrepreneurial stuff didn't succeed. So after my international politics stuff, I went into more politics and international development. So I was even more exposed, more traveling to Africa. Then I had the opportunity to go and work for the African Development Bank for the then appointed president of the African Development Bank, Donald Kaberuka, that was the former Rwandan finance minister. So got even more exposure and geographically going south. And yes, I guess at that time already I kind of, even before the African Development Bank, my interest for my second country, Rwanda, had grown. Mm-hmm. And recently I remembered one of the scene, which was kind of funny. The President Kagame came to Belgium, mm-hmm. and somehow I got to know that he was coming, and that there was an event for the diaspora, and so I said I should go, and listen from the man himself if the changes that I hear about in Rwanda are true or not. And like I guess my starting point for Brioche, I didn't. For once, I didn't think too much. I said, no, I should go. So I go there, and obviously there is security, etc. So you have to enter in that room, and it's not like you enter and you go out as you want. So I was in the room and waiting for it to start, and then people filled up, and there were also people close to me that, for some reason, were not in a positive mood, let's say, right? So they were ready to apparently ask the hard question and stuff. So there was some negativity in the room and some positivity as well. And so the president comes and it starts. And it starts in Kinyarwanda, which I don't speak at all, right? I had forgotten that part. I didn't think of that part. So I was stuck in that room, and it lasted for like 4 hours or 5 hours or something, because the president always takes a lot of questions. And so for those 4 or 5 hours, I understood maybe 10% of what was said in terms of the words that were said, because most of them were said in Kinyarwanda, which I didn't speak. But I saw, I felt, I guess, and saw that from a room that was kind of a bit divided in terms of negativity and positivity, over those 4 or 5 hours, whatever the president said and his answers to the question managed to change the room into full of positivity. And that was quite impressive, probably maybe even more impressive because I didn't understand the words. And I was impressed, and I was like, wow, so something is really happening. And so, yes, I think that kind of, those 4 or 5 hours where I sat there not understanding anything had quite an impact on me and my willingness to take the risk to go and see if I could contribute somehow in what was happening in Rwanda and East Africa in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you use the term "take the risk," because I think a lot of people who are in diasporas or in steady careers like you were in, that for them that risk is front and center, and it sounds like for you, you jumped in and decided that you wanted to be back in Rwanda. So how was the transition for you once you went back?
The transition geographically from Tunisia to Rwanda was quite smooth because and kind of easy in the sense that I was an employee at first, so it was that was not a big deal, I would say. And the transition then from the African Development Bank to entrepreneurship was on paper it was more of a big jump, and I kind of realized that also because of the look people were giving me, and they were giving me that look because I had changed from the African Development Bank to entrepreneurship and starting a small, tiny coffee shop, and also because of my outfit. They had, the new JP with a suit and tie, and then they were seeing me in a different outfit. But it's more the look of the other people that made me realize it was a big jump than the jump itself, because for me at that time the risk was not, I didn't see the risk as going into entrepreneurship. For me the risk was not to go into entrepreneurship. Interesting. I felt that I I wouldn't be able to explain to myself or other people, or at that time, you know, back in 2009 and even previously, I wanted to do this thing, but eventually I never did it. And that felt like too much of a risk for me.
Wow.
For me, the jump was not, yes, but again, I said I was foolish and stupid, but for me it was not really a big risk.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really insightful, because it's the risk of an unfulfilled dream or idea.
Yes, I would maybe not use that word because it sounds very,
I mean, like,
you know,
yeah,
but yes,
like,
I guess.
like not being true to yourself, basically.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. Wow, that's okay. I'll use that. That's a really good way to frame kind of difficult decisions. Am I being true to myself?
Yeah. So for me, yes. A couple of people asked me if it was difficult, but for me, it would have been difficult to stay in that current job and situation. So yes, I wouldn't say I was courageous or something. I would have been courageous to stay in that job and position. Yeah.
Okay, JP, where can people access Brioche products? You know, what's the footprint of Brioche at the moment?
So in Nairobi, we have 5 branches. We have one. They are all currently located at Rubis petrol station. We have a partnership with them, and so we have one in Ojijo, we have one Karen Gong Road, Karen Bomas, we have one in Tome on London Bypass, and one in Langata, and we hope to increase the number of outlets to make it accessible to as many people as possible, both in terms of pricing and in terms of geographic accessibility.
Okay, fantastic. So, any final thoughts before we close out?
Well, I think I hope that through the series of interviews you do, people will be motivated and inspired and take the jump to, you know, do whatever they feel they can do in Kenya and East Africa. And there are so many things that can be done, not only in entrepreneurship, in all kinds of industries, entertainment or arts or anything. There's a lot to do, and I believe we have more of an opportunity to have an impact, even if it's a small one, than in other parts of the world. So it's definitely worth it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big part of why I started this conversation series, and I'm so grateful that you have lended your voice to this. At least I know personally I have you've reframed a lot of thoughts around entrepreneurship for me in terms of honoring your creative ideas or your true self, and I am truly appreciative of that, and I thank you for taking the time to do this.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think that the non-entrepreneurship motivation factors or non-financial motivation factors are much more important, at least for me. On a daily basis, that's the driving force. In the really difficult situation, I don't think about the financial success that might be forgone. I think about how kind of a shame that would be if Brioche is not a success. If we were to have to close it down and whatnot. Yet in the small country of Rwanda, Brioche is not such a small company, and that thought really gets me going in the really difficult situation. And so those are I think the key elements on a day-to-day basis to go through those many challenges. Yeah.
So where can people go to stay in touch with you or follow Brioche and stay up to date on all the amazing things that you're doing now and into the future?
Yes, it's Brioche Kenya, Brioche Rwanda on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you have it, guys. This episode has been really interesting in terms of just framing the decision around entrepreneurship and building businesses that are making a real impact on the continent in small and big ways. I think for me, some of the key takeaways from this was, the transformation that entrepreneurs have to go through to be effective in running their businesses, and honoring your true self, really going after your passions and your ideas, and framing risk a little bit differently when it comes to should I jump and do something entrepreneurial, or should I stay and remain as a small cog in the wheel? So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you.